Today we're talking about 8 things that I personally experienced during my first D&D game that made me want to Eldritch Blast myself right in the face. Hi, I'm Katie, and welcome back to Nerdic Inspiration, the channel where we create, paint, learn, and discuss the nerdiest of things in the coolest of ways. Welcome back. There are just a few things that I just cannot push deep down inside my soul any longer. I know that there's some people that haven't even watched a D&D game before, which gives you a lot of context. So these are meant to be tips that can help make people more aware of what can happen and to help people improve. Last thing you want to do is tarnish the gaming experience for your entire party and aggravate the hell out of your DM. Kicking it off, we have players that have absolutely no backstory for their character. To make things worse, some players might not even have physical features defined, or flaws, or bonds, or traits, or really any character attributes at all. They're really just combat-hungry monkeys swinging around a sword. The reason that Session 0 exists is to do these things. You should be meeting with your DM early so you can come up with a backstory that fits within the realm. Do not come to the first session without having at least some of your core developmental character parts defined. You might find that you develop some parts of your backstory as time goes on, but that's no excuse to have absolutely no backstory defined in your early sessions. This next one is having absolutely no creativity or hint of uniqueness in your character whatsoever. A character that really has been played before, or a character that you saw in a movie or read in a book. Now, this can be a great starting point for your character, and by all means, if you really want to play out a character that's similar to Harry Potter, play out that character, but make it your own. Make it unique. Don't make it obvious that you're playing Harry Potter. I see D&D as a game. It's an outlet for creativity, it's a way to bond and be social, and I want you to play the character that you want to play in the way that you want to play it. But that being said, come to the table and bring something fun, bring something unique, and really play it up. It's your character, make it shine. The next one is stepping on other players. I think by Session 3, you should be mindful and aware of when you should speak and when you should let other people speak. Usually in a typical party, you have those players that are a little bit overbearing and they kind of take the limelight, and then you have a couple players that seldom say anything at all. There is a great unity between the two players. However, it's up to you as a player to kind of figure out what that dynamic is like, and by Session 3, you should have a better understanding of how you can play to that. This next one, being on your phone during the session. People that are just not engaged or paying attention during the session. Think about how much effort your GM put into this, prepared miniatures, or set up a Roll20 game online, prepared maps, prepared NPCs, made sure that they had everything that they needed to start this game and lead this session. Everybody is there for a pretty big chunk of time, most sessions being at least 2 hours long. So be present, be mindful of other people's time, be respectful of your friends. Don't be on your phone because it's really going to take away from the atmosphere and the immersiveness of the game. The next one is people that don't have their spells selected, but it can also be players that don't play a spell or magic casting player. If you level up, it's your job as a player to make sure that you pick your spells and that you're ready for the next session. Now, depending on how your group is, maybe you get there kind of early to the session and you have some snacks, you kind of figure out your character, you talk with the other players, and you're kind of setting up for the game. Maybe find out strategically what spells make sense for you to take versus others. It's kind of annoying if you always wait till the last minute to do this, and if you're getting there on time and now holding up the rest of the group because you didn't have your spells figured out and prepared. Also really frustrating if you're doing this when the game has already started, you've got a book open, or again, you're on your phone because you're looking up spells. Do it right after the session ends, update your character sheet, and you won't forget it, and then it'll be ready for the next session. Not thinking ahead on what you're gonna do, specifically not having an action plan for combat. Don't be that person that acts startled when the DM says, okay, so-and-so, what are you gonna do? And then you're like, oh, it's my turn. Pay attention, know where you fall in the initiative, and have a plan. Your plan doesn't have to be perfect. Have options in your head. This is part of learning how to play D&D, so that's why I'm kind of throwing it in that Session 2 or Session 3 area. I definitely expect your first session to be confusing. Combat will be slow. That's perfectly fine. Second session, your combat's going to be somewhat slow, but you should have an idea of how to plan options and be ready for combat when it gets to be your turn. Where do you fall in the initiative? What options do you have? If you're a range attack person, okay, you know that you can maybe fire your bow. Where are you going to move and why would you move there? Is there anything else that needs to happen? Maybe there's a lever in the room that you think needs to be pulled. So does it make more sense for you to attack, or maybe you should go for that lever? Assess your surroundings and your objectives. Don't just think about combat. The last variable that you're considering is what's happening in your party and what's happening to the creatures that you're fighting. You're not going to know this until it comes to your turn. Having options prepared lets you say, when it's my turn, I'm going to execute option B out of ABC, because I know that that option now makes sense based on all these other things happening. Just having a rough plan in your head, having a couple options, even though they're not foolproof, is going to put you in a better position and make combat go a lot faster. At minimum, try to have at least 2 options set aside when it becomes your turn. That's a really great place for you to look at improving your gameplay. This next one is for those people that don't attempt to roleplay their character at all, or they only try to charge forward to combat. You should get to know the other characters in your party. If you're not stepping out of your comfort zone, you're never going to become a better role player. Again, if you don't have that good character depth, if you haven't defined that backstory or those attributes about your character, it's going to make this a lot harder. This does not by any means mean that you have to dress up, do some silly voice, anything like that. It just means that when you're in a scenario and you're given a certain context, you're reacting and acting and saying things that your character would actually say or do, making your character seem like it has more depth. I understand for people that are coming to D&D for the first time that role-playing and really the whole aspect of character creation can be the most difficult part of the game, but if you don't practice it and you don't try it and step out of your comfort zone, you're never going to get better at it. And the more you do it, I guarantee the more that you'll fall in love with it and the more that you guys will really enjoy the game. The last one is pretty open-ended, and that's asking, what is that? And it's really anytime the DM asks you to do something and you have to ask them what that is. This is definitely understandable for your first few sessions. That can happen. You can forget, wait, what is initiative? What dice do I roll? Where do I look on my character sheet for that? Totally understandable. That's part of learning the game. Where it starts to really get frustrating and make me want to pull my hair out is when people are asking the same question in the same session. If you have to ask every single time the DM says roll initiative, what is initiative and how you roll it, and you need to take a mental note of what that is or write it down on your character sheet. Take some initiative for yourself. Every time you have to ask, what is that? You're taking away from the gaming experience for everybody else there. Maybe after the game, if you're finding one of the concepts really confusing, talk to your DM one-on-one. Hey, I don't really understand how this works. Can you remind me? And take some notes. I really encourage everybody to watch D&D. Watching a couple games can really help you grasp the concepts a lot faster. It's going to be critical that you try to understand the concepts themselves. What is initiative? Understand what the thing is, and then it'll come intuitively to you about what you're supposed to roll and when you're supposed to roll it. D&D, like many tabletop RPGs, is creative, it's open, it's whatever you and your gaming party want it to be. However, coming with a willingness to learn, showing you've done what you can do to prepare, and putting your heart into the game will really improve the experience for sessions to come. If you're wanting to be a part of a community that embraces raw, authentic creativity and nerdiness at its finest, consider hitting that subscribe button and joining the Nerd Guild. I'd really appreciate it. We'd love to have you. If you enjoy my content and want to support the channel, consider checking out the Patreon link in the description below and follow me on social media. Cool.